The following podcast is brought to you by Iconic Nation Media.
Welcome to The Winning Edge, the podcast where champions are built and legacies are made. I'm Leonard Wheeler, former NFL player turned entrepreneur of 24 years and co-executive director of the NFL Legends community. After years of being on the field, I've learned that the real game starts when the stadium lights go out. This show is your all-access pass to the mindset, strategies, and leadership lessons that fuel success beyond sports. Each week, we will dive into what it truly takes to win in business, leadership, and life. We'll discuss how elite athletes, game-changing entrepreneurs, and industry leaders turn discipline into dominance and setbacks into comebacks. The next play is yours.
Welcome to the Roman Gabriel Show on Iconic Nation Media. With me is a good friend. We've known each other for a long, long time. And former Carolina Panthers, Cincinnati Bengal, now with the NFL. So Leonard Wheeler with me. Leonard, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Roman. Thank you so much for having me. And Roman, you remember I did play for the Minnesota Vikings too, by the way.
Oh, that's right. I forgot one team. Forgive me. I always think of you as a Panther, though, just because you're in Charlotte. So.
I know, Rome. How are you doing?
You know, they love you out there, though, so that's what I'm sure give you the props.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, really good to have you on, especially during the football season. We need to talk about our Panthers very quickly here.
Let's go. 6-5, Roman. 6-5. That's a winning season already.
So what I've heard is that every game that they've won, you've been in the stadium in Charlotte. Is that what it is? They've got you out there?
You know, I wish I could claim that, but it would not be a true statement.
Well, I tell you what, it's been a long time coming. It's been a dry spell for the Panthers, so it's good to see them in contention. Young quarterback. Bryce is playing really well. Looks like hopefully they've got stability in the organization, Leonard. That's been the problem here the last 5 years. Way too many changes.
And look, you know as well as I do, when you're going through so many changes like that, Roman, it creates so much uncertainty, right? And it doesn't allow the players to get their footing. And so now that it's been some establishment being made, the players are really showing up and they're playing well on both sides of the ball. I think more so on the offensive side of the ball than the defensive side, but nevertheless, they have a winning season.
Leonard, what's the biggest difference from when you played the game till now on the defensive side? What do you see in the game that's changed from the time when you played till today?
You know, that's a great question. When I played the game, we could hound the receivers within 5 yards. Like, I mean, it was an all-out fight at times, Roman, right? And so now if you have 2 to 3 yards, you can it's just pass interference is called at a drop of a dime. The receivers are looking for the referees to call pass interference every single play. And so I think one is that people don't realize this, but there are also more cameras that are available in the NFL on the sideline, on the hash marks, etc. So now everything is caught on camera. See what I'm saying? And so we didn't have all of those cameras catching everything when I played.
Do you think pass interference should be, as much as it's called today, to give the offensive side a chance, should have instant replay?
Well, we always say on defense, offense sells tickets, defense wins championships, right? And so people do come to the game to see a great competitive game, right? Because a lot of times, if it's just a defensive stand in the game and the score is 6-6, people really don't want to see that. If the score is 36-36, that's what people really want to see, a high-scoring game.
So the other thing I think that's changed a lot that makes it even harder in that pass interference call is the back shoulder throw, which really wasn't as prevalent when you played.
Back shoulder throws. I think, to be honest, I believe that they are more athletic right now. You know, they train differently than we did when we played. We played more sports I think athletes today are accustomed to just playing one sport, right? But I think the players are getting bigger, they're taller, they're very athletic. I would argue if they're as tough as we were because we were able to do a lot more than our kids are today. And so our mentalities were totally different than our kids are in the game today.
Well, you know what's interesting too is that when you and I played, you hit in practice almost every day in some way. But today, even at the youth level, it was funny because I was out west, and visited my old high school, watched practice, and this was on a Wednesday, which normally was a contact practice for us all the way. They were in shorts and shoulder pads. Nobody ever hit the ground. Nobody ever hit anybody during practice.
Well, and that's through our collective bargaining agreement, right? Our CBA protects the players. And I can understand it, to be honest, because when I played, we had 6 days of tour days, Roman. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
6 days. We had 6 weeks of tour days where it was literally tour days every day for 6 weeks.
You had 6 preseason games too, right?
And we had how many?
6. With 6 preseason games?
So we had 5 1 year, but most of the time we had 4 preseason games. But everything were pads. I mean, we wore pads all the time. Even during the season, we had 7-on-7. We had you go into the trenches and you pound and you pound and you pound, and that was a lot of wear and tear on us.
When you talk to guys now, though, Leonard, do you think that the lack of hitting in practice is what makes it hard to hit effectively or to tackle effectively in the NFL for a lot of teams?
I think that when you don't practice something, you can't be good at it when you're not practicing it, right? I understand from from head trauma, from migraines to concussions, things that, all the hitting cause. I do understand them, making the game a lot safer for our guys. But what's happened is that it does allow us to now go up and try to pound somebody instead of wrapping up and tackling and taking them down to the ground. Because that was one of the things that we've been doing since I was 5 years old. Wrap up, same shoulder, same arm, wrap up, tackle, hold on until they fall to the ground.
Yeah, it's like a lot of guys want to be in the ESPN big hits highlights at the end of the day.
Big hits,
knocking somebody out instead of get them to the ground.
I mean, everybody can't be Peanut Tillman. Peanut Tillman had the peanut punch. You remember that? Remember he had the peanut punch to where he would punch the ball out? If you notice now, a lot of guys are trying to create fumbles, right? I do believe that there are more fumbles now than we've ever had in our entire career when I played in the NFL, because guys are more cognizant of where the ball is instead of just making a tackle.
And that wasn't really something that you practiced back then, was it? I mean, today they practice that. Like, that's a regular deal, right?
We actually practiced it a lot in practice. I mean, we practiced punching the ball every single day, but we also practiced tackling every day. So we had more variety when it came to how are we going to get the guys down or how are we going to stop them.
We're with Leonard Wheeler, former NFL cornerback, and now with the NFL, and also working in the corporate space, right?
NFL, Roman?
Just NFL offices, right? NFL office.
I'm in the NFL office in New York, working with Tracy Perlman.
NFL office.
Tracy Perlman and Troy Vincent. And they do an amazing job, Rome. And you remember I used to be on the NFLPA side for 6 years as on the board of directors. And so being in the NFL office has allowed us to really share a message with our guys from different perspectives, because the NFLPA, they're also partners with us where, because I love those guys. I've worked with them for a long time. And working with the trust, now we have a true partnership to where we are creating awareness around what our guys and their families continue to need.
Leonard, when I think about how far, it's come in this league, because one of the things that we didn't discuss earlier is the amount of money the guys are making today almost behooves the teams to protect them even more, right?
It does.
Because it's just a huge investment that you're making in most of these players. I mean, what's the average salary now?
Well, let's just say that the average salary is way more than it was average when you and I played.
Well, I heard around $1 million. Is that right?
It is around $1 million.
Okay.
And if you think about that just within itself, how important does it become for our guys to make sure that they're even more educated from a fiscal fiduciary responsibility when it comes to taking care of their money? Because they have real opportunities to create real life legacy and generational wealth, right? So if that money is taken care of with the utmost responsibility, they could end up with a pretty amazing life later on, Roman.
How do you think that what's going on in the college game, excuse me, in the college game, with now agents starting to recruit players in high school, some of these high-profile players in college football making $4 to $8 million. How do you think that affects it in terms of are they getting that education you're talking about at an earlier age, or does it make it tougher when they come to the NFL to be good with money?
Oh, man, that's an interesting question because I mean, growing up in the projects in Toccoa, Georgia, Roman, if I had access to $4 million when I was 18 years old, good luck.
Yeah.
Right. And so because I did not come from that educational background, my parents were not educated in that perspective to help me to understand how to deal with money. I think what it does, it sets the athletes up to have an expectation that can't be fed, right? Because you look at NIL, you look at the money that they're making so early, and then they go into the NFL and they're realizing that, hold on, I'm not the same level of superstar that I was in high school or maybe I was in college, to where now I'm going to have to eat some humble pie. How do you humble yourself when you feel that you're on the same level as a professional athlete or a professional coach?
That brings me up to what they were saying about Shedeur Sanders during the process of the draft, about how some people, the rumor was that he wasn't giving as much respect due to the interviewers during the interviews. And that plays back into what you're talking about, where you're coming in and you're making more money than some of the assistant coaches make out of college. It's
easy to think that you're on the same level, right, Roman?
Yeah, well, economics can do that, especially to a young person that doesn't have a lot of experience and who's being told all the time since the day, like you and I said, when we played, you played football, basketball, and baseball. But now these kids are going to elite football camps at 9 and 10 years old. They've got quarterback gurus. I know 2 or 3 of those guys who are working with, they starting in late grade school with these kids. I know the guy that worked with Brock Purdy when he was in grade school. It's just a totally different atmosphere and game and business than it was. And then when I think about when my dad played, he was one of the highest paid players during the time he played. And I think his best contract at that time, which was pretty good, was $300,000. That was back in the, early 70s. But they really didn't make enough money back then to where you didn't play hurt and you didn't play injured, the difference between hurt and injured. So
right.
There really wasn't, a lot of worth that was seen by the owner and the organization in terms of keeping players safe.
I remember talking to a player named Tony First before he passed away. He was 94 at this particular time. And he was sharing with me his journey when he played. He said, Leonard, I had 2 jobs during the season. Right? So he had 2 jobs during the season because football was not paying him enough money.
Right.
So imagine how and I believe what we have to do is that we have to admonish, we have to give thanks and be grateful for the guys that played before us. Like when I think about your dad, you, and I think about all the people that played before me, I am who I was at that particular time because of all of you. I'm not who I was because of something that I did solely on my own. I am who I was because I was able to stand on the shoulders of the giants that came before us, the Reggie Whites and all of those players. Reggie White fought for free agency. You know what I'm saying? So when our young people look back, they have to make sure that they continue to give honor where honor is due, and that's to the players that came before us.
Leonard Wheeler with us on the Roman Gabriel Show, RomanGabrielShow.com, right here on Iconic Nation Media. Leonard, I've really admired your career because you took your football career, you leveraged it in, what you've done in the exercise space, what you've done in the corporate space, keeping contacts with the NFL and being involved in the process of making the NFL a better place for the players that come in today. You've done a lot in terms of training businesses. You're a team guy. You took the team concepts of what we all learned in football and transferred that into a very successful business. So, what is it about working with corporate heads and with corporations that gives you a high in terms of taking what you learned through your football career and applying it to business?
That's a great question, Mama. I think it's because it's the human element, right? Even though we did play at such a high level, they're operating at a high level just in a different sport, is the way I look at it. They're in business. We're in business. Our business just happened to be athletics at that particular time in our life. And so what I want to make sure that I'm doing, one, is that I want to get certified, and I want to make sure that I'm prepared from a business acumen perspective to where I can speak the language. Number two, from a mindset perspective, Roman, it is all about leveling up. It's all about mindset, belief system. How do we get to the next level? Roman, you and I, we've been playing football for a long time. We understand the blueprint when it comes to creating an established mindset to understand momentum and to understand sustainability and to understand, this is how we recognize, the next play, or this is how we have hard conversation. This is how we dive in and we get ourselves up when we get knocked down. Well, all of those things become a capsule of information that we continue to give to corporations for them to be successful on and off the field, just like you and I did.
Leonard Wheeler's right here with us on the Roman Gabriel Show, Iconic Nation Media. And, one thing that you and I have in common is our faith in Jesus. And that plays such a big part in every area of our life. And talk to me about how your faith impacts business people and what you do.
You know what? Earlier, I talked about principles. Those are the principles. Those are the godly principles. When you talk about how do you want to make someone feel, right? Growing up, remember we used to say, words will never hurt you. Well, words would not just hurt you, they'll kill you, right? Or they'll cause other people to kill themselves. And so when I think about Christ and him walking the earth, I think about the impact and how he moved crowds and how he came into the room, and he came into the room with love and compassion, wanting to hear and listen to the hearts of people. That is really what I want to do when I go into corporations. I want to move the room with a passion of understanding and empathy to where they can not only, they have to see the light of Christ in me. And just like he said, let people see you, they see me in you and through you. That's what I want when I go into corporations.
No, you were talking earlier about your relationship with Reggie White, and you were the one that introduced me to Reggie years ago. And I remember the first NFL gospel concert at the Super Bowl in New Orleans, where you guys brought that together. And he was such a dynamic speaker, and he was so powerful and so committed and so passionate. And you had a chance to spend a lot of time around Reggie. Tell us a story about Reggie that maybe some people might not know.
You know what? I mean, Reggie, if you didn't know Reggie, you would think, man, what a big life of a guy, right? Because he's 300 pounds. He's about 6'5", 6'6", And he talked like this: "Hey man, I just want everybody to know that my name is Reggie White and I'm getting ready to bring the gospel to the world." Right. And so here's this big life of a guy, but the dude was full of grace. He was full of grace, and he was full of mercy, and he was full of compassion and understanding. And man, that is, I think more than anything else, I wanted people to see the guy that I was able to become great friends with. Right? And I don't know if everybody was able to see that guy because they couldn't get past the guy that he had become, if that makes sense.
I remember you invited me to go to an FCA event that he spoke at a church. I think it was in New Orleans. And I remember him standing up in front of probably 200 kids. And I'll never forget this statement that he made. I use it all the time. He said, kids, if you want to be somebody in life, it's not about who you are, it's about whose you are. And, he talked about the importance of your identity being in Jesus and having a relationship with Jesus, and that being the place that your identity starts. And that's something in ministry that I've always used. It's something that I always remember. And the other thing too, that he was very generous. I remember
very
him
generous. Yes.
His last
He was
couple years
generous with his time too, right, Ron?
Exactly. He gave me a 1-hour interview when he was with the Panthers and the whole interview, Leonard, was about what he wanted to do after football, about him wanting to go to Israel, wanting to learn the Jewish language, and just the passion for all the things that he wanted to accomplish after football. And it reminds me a lot of the same thing was true about Tony Dungy, is that way before Tony retired as a coach, he always talked about what he wanted to do with his platform when he was done. And that goes back to what you're talking about with these players, the importance of not identifying yourself as a famous NFL player today, but identifying your talents and abilities and establishing your platform so that you can move forward no matter what happens in your career.
And you know what? To that point, he was unashamed about his faith, right? He did not care who you were. He would tell you, "I love Jesus." And he didn't say, "I love God." He said, "I love Christ." Right. So he was not ashamed of who he was when it came to how he loved and how he shared Christ.
And the other thing, the influence on other people. I interviewed Brett Favre, about 4 or 5 months ago, and he said the same thing. He said what an influence Reggie had on his life. The example that he was, and of course, Brett went through a lot of tribulation and trial and has in his life, and he just talked about the center of his life now being God, his wife, and his family. And just the importance of that, and how you need to appreciate that. And I know you feel that way too, that, when we talk about, faith in God, family, and football, or faith in God, family, and whatever your vocation is, when those things are in order, things seem to go a lot better in life.
Oh my gosh. And Rome, we know how important impact is, right? And just like you said, the Father gives us an amazing blueprint to operate from when it comes to selecting people in our lives, just in general, how to be a better father. I didn't grow up with a great father. I grew up, my stepdad came into my life around 9 years old, and he became a great father to me. But my father figure was the Father in heaven. He gave me a blueprint of how to become a better father and a better husband to my family.
Leonard Wheeler with us on the Roman Gabriel Show, RomanGabrielShow.com, right here on Iconic Nation Media. Leonard, I wanted to make sure that we talked about this because you recently had a little scare in your life, learning that you had prostate cancer, and you came through something kind of tough, and you've turned that into a platform for the opportunity to spread the word to all men. And it's something that doctors, and something that, even at the Super Bowl, over the last 5 to 10 years, it's been a subject that always comes up on Radio Row. During the Super Bowl week, about, men getting tested, making sure that they get those pre-tests and that they get it early, and that they know from the diagnosis early so that they can get the treatment. So talk to me about, what happened with you personally.
Well, thank you for that question. Last July, 2024, I went in for went to my primary doctor for my yearly physical, and he said, I see a trend in your PSA. That's the blood test when it comes to testing your prostate instead of just the physical rectal exam. He said, I see a trend. It went from 1.1 to 2.1 to 3.1 over 3 years. And he noticed a trend, him being an African-American doctor, 70 years old, because African-American men are 1 out of 6 to have prostate cancer. Every man is 1 out of 8. So you think about it, there's a high probability that something's going to happen, right? And so we went through the whole process. My wife been a nurse for 28 years. She's over surgical service for Novant. So she recognized the conversation. And so we started digging in, got an MRI, got a biopsy, and found out it was prostate cancer. Prostate cancer does not run in my family. And so doctors were saying it's environmental, but how much no one cares why you have cancer.
Right.
They just know you have it. Right. And so I had one doctor saying I didn't. I had another doctor saying I did. To me, I had cancer. If you tell me I have cancer, I need to find out if I have it or not. So went through the whole process, Roman, and went through the biopsy. Biopsy came back. I had a Gleason 6-7 and 3.3, 3+3, which is intermediate cancer. And they were able to catch it early. And I went through the ablation TULSA-PRO procedure in Atlanta and became a global ambassador for Profound Medical, and was able to work with our friend Kimberly Lovey with Iconic Nation Media. And, she was able to really help me amplify the messaging when it came to really sharing what I'm going through with men all around the world.
So you mentioned you caught it early. So what is the percentages of full recovery for men who find it early, and what what prognosticates the word early?
Well, so early would be, mine was at a 3.1. A 4 is a threshold of alert. Like, let's make sure we get it checked. Well, mine was a 3.1. I've heard people with over 100 PSA, Roman.
Oh my goodness.
Right? No, seriously. And so I was a level 1. Okay. There are people that level 4 when it comes to prostate cancer. Right.
So what you're saying is that I know a lot of men who say, as long as I feel good, I'm not going to the doctor to get a checkup, even anytime. Well, you and I do it every year. I got my PSA checked. So what you're saying to men is, first of all, you need to get the regular checkup so you can get the PSA test every year, especially after 50, right?
Get screened, Roman. I mean, I was on the phone with some guys earlier, and one of his friends had prostate cancer at 38 years old. So it is all about not being selfish. Listen, there's a fear when it comes to the identifying of what could happen in your body, what could be in your body. But more than that, there's a stubbornness that exists with us as men at times, where pride and ego, and I always say that ego edges God out. Ego means edging God out, right? So we want to be here for our families. You want to be there for Marsh and your kids. Well, then it's your responsibility to make sure that, one, we love when we can trust you. Like, if I can trust that you have my back, then I'm going to go get checked. If I can trust that you're giving me correct information, Roman, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to follow what you're telling me. That's what we need to do with men right now, is change the conversation, change the narrative, and we will change the stigma.
So let's say you decided, hey, I got checked up, I'm at a 1.1, and you said, I probably don't need to look at this for 4 or 5 years. You could have been in the high level in 5 years.
I could have been at a high level in 5 years, Ron, because the thing is, doctors would tell you, just surveillance it. It's not a big deal. No, I'm not. That's like me surveillancing an alien growing inside of my body. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is let men know that they have options, right? They don't have to just do a prostatectomy or a HIFU. There's a TULSA Pro procedure that is minimally or to non-invasive. It's a non-invasive procedure that that's outpatient. So where I had an outpatient process, a procedure that allowed me to walk out and almost go home in one day.
So are you taking anything, or is there anything you're doing now to prevent this, or is this something because you said it wasn't genetic? So now just a checkup every year just to make sure that you're keeping this thing in check, or?
So every 4 months, I'm getting a PSA right now, to where every 3 to 4 months you get a PSA.
Which is just blood, right? Just drawing blood.
Just drawing blood. I mean, and you have to get the rectal exam too, because the prostate can also grow in size. I had a small prostate, right? I had a small prostate, but it's the educational component that I want to make sure that everybody's understanding.
So the question that's interesting to me too, as you mentioned, enlarged prostate is something that a lot of men have happen in their life. I mean, a big number.
A large prostate is what a lot of men have. And so sometimes we have an urgency to pee. Because this procedure didn't allow me to have any incontinence. It didn't allow me to have any erectile dysfunction, because that's what we're afraid of.
Right.
We're like, hold on, man, I'm going to lose all of my manhood. Right.
Yeah, but that's the reality of the enlarged prostate. And a lot of men don't know that they have it. But what you mentioned, there are certain signs that tell you that's becoming a problem. So
urgent urination, etc. Just be alert of the signs, and don't be afraid to share the conversation when it's happening, because a lot of times we're great at hiding things, man. Right. As men.
So do they have a recommendation, Leonard? Do they have a recommendation for what men should do about enlarged prostate? Not necessarily cancer, but enlarged prostate?
So a lot of times they hear about BPH. They hear about, I'm going to send you some information. What I would love for them to do, if they could go to tulsaprocedure.com, it would give them all of the information that they need pertaining to understanding the complexity sometimes when it comes to, having your prostate checked, and really understanding the symptoms that could be aligned with it.
Leonard Wheeler with us on the Roman Gabriel Show on Iconic Nation Media. And Leonard, really appreciate that, because all men need to be tuned in on exactly what they need to do and exactly what the options are. Many times, lack of education is just simply finding the right place to go. So if they want to find out more about you, because you do a lot of media, you do a lot of town halls, a lot of things like this, where do they find you on social media?
Well, I would love for them to go to Leonard Wheeler 7 on Instagram, or if they could follow the podcast, The Winning Edge, on Apple Music. It's on Spotify as well, and it's also on YouTube. And they can also find us, you and I, Rome, through our friend Kimberly Lovey, who loves when we embarrass her the way we're doing right now. Yeah. No, with Iconic Nation Media.
Kimberly and her husband Brian are awesome, and they've been awful good to us, and we really appreciate Iconic Nation Media and everything that they've done. They've already made a big difference. In fact, I was at Mar-a-Lago for a law enforcement event last Tuesday, and one of the first things that one of my friends in the DEA told me is somebody's doing new media for you. I've seen it online. It looks really good. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So I was very, she does a great job. And, Leonard, it's always a pleasure to get with you, and make sure that you get me all the contact information so men can find out more about what they can do to make sure that prostate cancer isn't a problem for them. And of course, God bless you, brother, because you did come through it and you did the right things. And we want you here for as long as possible, because you have such a great impact. And the cool thing about his program that you need to check out is he interviews high profile people from the world of business, entertainment, sports, medical, you name it, guys that are out there making a difference and are tops at what they do. So if you want to get the winning edge, like you said, Leonard can introduce you to the winning edge, because that's what he's all about. And that's what he wants people to know, is that everybody has the potential to have the winning edge, because there's certain things that you can do in life to make yourself better off and to give yourself more successful opportunities. So that's all we can ask for, is God blessing us with the tools and abilities, and then the work ethic to go out there and do what needs to be done. But Leonard, God bless you, brother.
You're awesome, Roman.
Yeah,
appreciate you, brother.
Soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your friendship, and thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate you. Love you. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this week's episode of The Winning Edge. You can write in and ask your questions on my Instagram page at Leonard Wheeler 7, and I will address your questions on an upcoming episode. If this episode helped you, I would love for you to share it with your friends, colleagues, and family. Share the episode with those that you feel can benefit from it. You can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, X, and LinkedIn, found in the show notes. I would greatly appreciate it if you would rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe now, and let's build your legacy.